What if I told you one of the greatest Halloween songs ever recorded wasn't the hit version? What if I told you that before Jumpin' Gene Simmons ever walked into a haunted house, another singer had already moved in? And this was another Mississippi-born artist, a bluesman, and he worked with one of the most important record producers you've probably never heard of. And together, they created a song that would quietly become one of the cornerstones of Halloween music. On this episode, we're reopening the door to Haunted House, but we're going back to the original. I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. Every October, Haunted House starts making the rounds again. It's one of those songs that will never really disappear. It just waits for the cool weather, waits for the falling leaves, and waits for Halloween. And most listeners know the 1964 hit by Jumpin' Gene Simmons. It's a fantastic record. We covered it on our very first episode in this series on my favorite songs, way back in episode 87. But with this podcast, we're going to go back 6 years earlier in that timeline, back to December of 1958, and back to the man who recorded it first, Johnny Fuller. And equally important, we're going to talk about the songwriter and producer who dreamed it up. His name is Robert Geddins. And I want to clarify a mistake I made in the first episode on this song. I mentioned Dr. John had some involvement with the song, and I think I said he even wrote it. But that was not true. It was Mr. Geddins, and without Bob Geddins, there may have never been a haunted house for anyone else to move into in the first place. So, I think Johnny Fuller is one of those artists who perfectly represents why I enjoy digging through music history. He wasn't really a household name. He wasn't a chart-dominating superstar, but musicians knew who he was, and collectors knew who he was. And if you love early rhythm and blues, you will find your way to Johnny Fuller. He was born on April 20th, 1929 in Edwards, Mississippi. And as a teenager, his family relocated to Vallejo, California. And that would shape the rest of his musical life. And what's fascinating about his career is he never really fit into one category. He's always called a West Coast blues artist, but if you listen to his recordings, you'll hear more than just the blues. You'll hear gospel, you'll hear rhythm and blues, you'll hear country, and you'll hear early rock and roll. And my research described him as an artist who jumped all kinds of genre fences, and that's a wonderful description. He simply made music, and whatever style served the song, that's what he did. So one of the things that's always appreciative about the stories that I try to bring you guys is that they're human. Johnny Fuller was not an overnight success. He recorded gospel songs as early as 1948. He worked with independent labels. He sang wherever the opportunity arose. And eventually, like so many working musicians, he balanced music with a regular job. From 1968 to 1983, he worked as an auto mechanic in a local garage while music became less central to his life. And that's a good reminder, that detail. It reminds us that not every influential musician became wealthy. Some simply kept living their lives. They kept working. They supported their family, and they made music when they could. We'll be right back after this quick break. I am Gregory Hallows, your voice behind the Preserve Halloween Podcast and founder of the Halloween Preservation Society. Halloween is more than a holiday. It's history, folklore, and a tradition worth protecting. If you love the stories, the research, and the deep dives into Halloween I bring you, please consider supporting the Preserve Halloween Podcast. Your support can help me with more research opportunities, including travel to locations relevant to Halloween history, and to bring you even more insight into the world's greatest holiday. Every one of your contributions, no matter the amount, helps keep the jack-o'-lantern glowing just a little bit longer. So support the show if you can, help me preserve the past, and keep Halloween history alive for generations to come. Check the links in the show description to find out more. And thank you. And now, back to the podcast. Now, just as important as Johnny Fuller is to this story, we have to also discuss the person behind the curtain, Bob Geddins. And the more you read about Bob Geddins, the more you are convinced he's one of the great unsung heroes of American music. Robert L. Geddins was born in Texas in 1913, and then he relocated to Oakland during World War II. And once he arrived in California, he didn't just become another musician. He built an entire musical ecosystem. He started record labels. Actually, he started a lot of record labels. Art Tone, Big Town, Cavatone, Downtown, Irma, Plaid, Rhythm, Veltone, and there's more. So he wasn't waiting around for someone else to give artists a chance. He was creating those opportunities himself. He even owned a pressing plant and loaded records into his own car to distribute them. And that's independent music in the purest sense, right? And some would say he was the godfather of Oakland blues. That nickname appears repeatedly in the things that I read about him. And after reading through his accomplishments, it's easy to see why. These are some of the artists that he worked with: Lowell Fulson, Jimmy McCracklin, Roy Hawkins, Big Mama Thornton, Sugar Pie DeSanto, Etta James, and of course, Johnny Fuller. He wasn't simply recording artists, he was helping shape the sound of post-war West Coast rhythm and blues. And unfortunately, despite his influence, he frequently struggled financially because of informal business arrangements, and he would lose the rights to many of his own creations. And that's one of those things that you often find in stories about musicians and music in general, is a lot of times the artists and the creators of the music themselves get screwed over by corporations and record labels and other people. And this seems to be another instance of that. He had a huge influence, but maybe a limited recognition, and we'll try to change that, right? But the partnership between Fuller and Geddins proved to be incredibly productive. Fuller recorded extensively for labels associated with Geddins and even cut 20 sides for him in 1954 alone. So that's insane, right? 20 recordings in 1 year. They trusted each other. Geddins understood Fuller's voice, and Fuller understood Geddins' songs, and that is a recipe for success. They created records that blended blues, rock and roll, country, and R&B in ways that felt completely natural. And one of those songs was All Night Long, but one of the others, this would become an immortal song. Haunted House was first released by Johnny Fuller in December of 1958. It was written and produced by Bob Geddins. So again, we're in the late 50s. Halloween music barely existed as its own thing. There were spooky novelty records, there were ghost songs, there were monster songs back then, but there was not a Halloween playlist. That had not been invented yet. That was something that we came up with later. And then there comes this record. Now, when you listen to the song, it opens up with this eerie laughter. And right away, that's different, right? He sings about moving into a new house and everything seems fine. And then chains begin rattling, bells start ringing, and suddenly he comes to the realization that he's living in a haunted house. The song is funny, it's spooky, but most importantly, it's fun. And this is the reason why the song worked. It's never taken too seriously. The lyrics are cinematic, like a lot of the songs that I like. And Johnny describes seeing a creature with one big eye and two big feet. And instead of, recoiling in terror, He freezes, and then the monster just strolls right past, or strolls toward him. This monster's playful, it's weird, and it's exactly the kind of storytelling that Halloween embraces. There is a very energetic guitar work in this song. The monster references incorporated popular dance crazes of the day, which a lot of songs did, and it gives the record a distinct late 1950s personality and brilliant songwriting. Bob Geddins wasn't just writing about ghosts, he was writing for the audience. And this is a thing that we can't forget. Monster Mash did not come out until 1962, so this song was 4 years before that. Johnny Fuller's Haunted House was out there several years earlier than Monster Mash, and it belongs to a very small group of records that helped establish what Halloween music could sound like. Not orchestral, not particularly scary, and not horror movie music. This was rock and roll. Halloween music could be dancey. It could have an attitude. It could make you swing. And although Johnny's version became a regional success and earned him spots on rock and roll tours with artists like Paul Anka and Frankie Avalon, it never became the national blockbuster he wanted it to be. But songs have a funny way of surviving, right? Sometimes they just wait. And that waiting led to, in 1964, Jumpin' Gene Simmons recording the song that became a hit. And then the song would later be recorded by artists including Sam the Sham, Jerry Lee Lewis, John Anderson, John Fogerty, Ray Stevens. Those guys all covered. I think Lynn Anderson also covered. There's a lot of people covered the song Haunted House. And that tells you everything you need to know. A good song's a good song, and great songs endure. And Johnny Fuller's version occupies a very special place for me. It is the first version to be recorded, and that's important. It wasn't the famous one, but it was the first one, and it has authenticity. It's raw. It's got a rhythm and blues energy that later versions kind of smooth out. When Halloween collectors build playlists, they're often looking for records that feel discovered, like hidden treasures, songs that make people ask, who is this? And Johnny Fuller's Haunted House does exactly that. It became a badge of honor among Halloween music enthusiasts. If you know it, you know it, right? Isn't that the saying? If you know, you know. So sometimes history remembers the biggest hit. Sometimes it remembers the first spark. Without Johnny Fuller, there is no original Haunted House. Without Bob Geddins, there isn't even a song to record. So together they built one of Halloween's earliest rock and roll anthems, a record that has outlived countless trends, a record that is still played every October, a record that will probably be covered again by someone because it keeps getting covered every so many years. And it's proof that sometimes the greatest Halloween music isn't the one that everyone remembers. It's the one that's waiting to be rediscovered. So somewhere tonight, someone is moving into an old house. The rent seems cheap, the neighbors seem quiet, and everything looks perfectly normal until the chains start rattling. Until next time, stay strange, stay curious, stay spooky, and always preserve Halloween.